YouTube? What the freak is going on? Or should I say, what the crap is going on? Sorry, I'm getting my own catchline wrong. This is the heir of Carthage, the one, the only, like I'm that great. Okay, no, anyway, that was sarcastic, you know. So I'm bringing you some Shogun 2 action. So I was looking on Twitter to see which type of online video you all wanted me to do, and I think Shogun 2 Traditional Army and Empire Total War was pretty much a tie. So the next online battle I'll do some Empire Total War. Of course, during the week, I'm going to continue to upload the rest of the Tosa campaign, which I have completed at this time. It's just a matter of rendering it and uploading it. So you will be getting some campaign videos during the week as promised. Let me start this off here real quick. I'm going to put it in slow mode so I have a little more time to describe what's going on. Some of y'all want me to do some traditional action, so I decided for one of my battles I would do some traditional versus traditional action. And then my next one is all your favorite, which is Patchy Defies Modernization. So in this particular battle, it's being fought on the map Daisetsuzan Basin. And this particular guy was hosting this in the battle list, so this was not a match-made match. I joined it, and I was ranked a lot higher than him, but he allowed me to stay in the match. You know, I was more than willing to leave if they didn't want to play someone who was ranked that high. I believe he was like a 7-star, and I'm a silver 10-star when it comes to the traditional stuff. Not that ranking really means everything, but there is a big difference when it comes to retainers and avatar skills and stuff like that. So in any case, the Daisetsuzan Basin, one of the points that I wanted to bring up here is that this map has a lot of choke points. If you see that there's pretty much a fair fighting field in the center, but if you'll notice this kind of fishbone type shape down the center, like this is kind of the spine, here's the ribs. In any case, cavalry assaults from the rear are difficult at best on this map because your cavalry has to come up hills and through choke points. So the Daisetsuzan Basin map is really not a very good map to go with expensive or overly large amounts of cav. So whenever I built my army, I just brought 2 cav units, and even this was probably too much. So I brought a Yari cav and a monk cav. I've brought 4 units of Naginata attendants, which are going to be very cheap, effective spear units on this medium funds level that my opponent has selected. So basically, I can stop however much expensive cav he has with just my spear units here that cost me very little. And then of course my cavalry is only here for maneuvering purposes. So even if he brought 4 or 5 cav, then I'd be able to hold him down. So one of the tactics that I wanted to point out here, because my opponent I think was, he wasn't like brand new to the game because he was rank 7, but he's obviously probably somewhat new, or at least trying to develop a new avatar. And I think he was kind of impressed with what happened here. Now I'm not trying to say that anything I do here is anything fancy, but I wanted to explain this because I thought, you know what, there's probably a lot of you out here who are just getting into these games, and maybe you could use some advice in these types of battles. So army choice is everything in these types of fights, and then understanding the strengths and weaknesses of that army that you've brought. I've hammered on this a lot. So in this particular army, my strength is my infantry. They're very ranked up katana samurai with high attack. Now my opponent, I think, did use the Fugu Cook on me, so I lost a couple of attack on each of my guys, but you can see that I've still got a 20 and 18 attack katana samurai available to me. And then, so basically my infantry is going to be very powerful when it comes to melee, and I've also brought strong bows. So my killing force is my bows and my infantry. Now this means that I don't have a whole ton of men though, just because I've spent so much money on them. My spears are cheap though, that's where I make up the difference. My opponent, however, has spent a great deal of money on these great guard units where he's upgraded mostly the charge, which means that any charge he gets into with my cavalry will get absolutely pummeled. But remember that I have spear support, which was part of my idea. Now he's going to protect his swords with 2 units of Naginata Samurai, and then he's got 4 units of Katana Samurai for his main attack. However, some of these are suffering in attack just because of the Fugu Cook that I played, and he hasn't gotten to upgrade their attack very much. So my opponent could have brought even more infantry had he brought standard cavalry rather than Great Guard. So his mistake so far is having brought Great Guard on a map where they're going to have very little room to maneuver or to become decisive. So I think that this was a mistake for him to spend that much money. These cavalry units are probably anywhere from 12 to 1400 koku each, depending on how many upgrades he's poured into them. So anyway, this was definitely a mistake. My Daiki Samurai are lining up right here, and they're about to unleash on these Great Guard. Now Great Guard is fairly resistant to missile fire due to their armor, but they still took 5 losses because that's pretty much a point-blank shot from a Daiki Samurai, which is a very effective archer unit. They're about 90, they're 90 strong, but tend to have the armor of bow samurai and the shooting stats of bow monks. So the Daikyu samurai is a very powerful unit indeed. And I believe it was actually a different type of bow. I want to say the Daikyu is a different kind of bow, and then the Yumi bow was a different one too. I'm not very well versed on that, so I won't go too much further with that discussion. So at this point, my opponent's relying on one unit of skirmishers to try and soak up some missile fire. I'm sure that he didn't expect these guys to win a skirmishing fight. He's calling them bad bowmen. I'll go ahead and put it into regular speed at this point now that you've seen the armies. So at this point it's really a simple, it's my game to lose because my opponent has spent so much on those Great Guard. He's going to have to figure out how to use them while I can easily defend against them. My archers are going to quickly shred these Ashigaru archers. You can see them opening fire here now. These guys really don't have a prayer. So you can see his Ashigaru archers going down fast, and I'm choke pointing his Great Guard, so I moved all my spears to protect this angle, so now he's going to have to move even further away, which means it's going to take even longer to get to his troops and try and support them. Because I win the bow fight, my opponent is forced to infantry charge, which I will gladly accept because my infantry is the equal of his. Now he does have 3 more units of infantry than me, so my opponent needs to make outflanking gestures in order to kill me because my guys are going to throttle right through his in the center. So let's watch the charge of my Katana Samurai. My guys should easily win this charge, plus his guys are taking bow fire. So there's the initial charge up that side, and then the initial charge in the center. You can see that his guys are immediately down to half strength, and they're going to get cut down extraordinarily fast by my Katana Samurai, but see his Great Guard are nowhere near to support. So this is the problem. My opponent's going to get absolutely hacked to bits in the center, and here's his cavalry attempting to make its way to the battlefield, and I'll kind of show you. This doesn't take very long, but I'll show you the damaging effect that even a little bit of time can have. So I've got him bracketed with Naginata attendants. My opponent could try and charge through these, but he's going to lose men, and again he's going to lose, most importantly, time. My opponent doesn't have time for these type of delays. So I'm going to hold his men still with my Naginata attendants, and then go ahead and go in for the charge and pin him down with my cavalry. So here I get his Great Guard. They don't get their charge bonus, which is one of their big benefits. Over here, my opponent knows that he has to try and support his men, but at this point, even though he runs through, it's too late. My swords have already killed all of his men on this flank, absolutely all of them. Over here, his Naginata Samurai and Katana were being held up by my Naginata attendant, and now the remainder of my Katana troops are here, and they're going to commence the killing. And even when he does get to my general, now he pushed through with his melee general. My general has melee general type stats though as well, so my general can fight back. And then his Great Guard is here as well. So Patchy is definitely letting some heads roll at this point. He can hold his own for a little while in this type of fight. I do not see old Patchy here, but I'm sure he's somewhere in the vicinity. There's his bodyguard. Yeah, I'm not sure where old Patchy's at. He got pushed away somewhere or something. I know he didn't die, but I'm not sure where he went either. That was kind of confusing. In any case, you can see that the battle is over, so I hope you all learned something from this. My opponent, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and hit in battle so you can see the statistics. My opponent was surprised at how quickly his swords died. That's not something you should be surprised at. If you looked at the stats there, my lowest stats were 16 attack on my Katana Samurai, and his highest stats were 14. And the larger the differential between attack on units, the quicker the enemy units are going to die. Now, of course, melee defense and armor play into that as well, but typically speaking, the quicker those units are going to die. So with a 20 attack Katana Samurai taking on a 10, 12, or even 14 attack Katana Samurai, they're going to decimate it, and they're going to decimate it quickly, especially if the other unit loses the charge. So when it comes to Katana Samurai, the type of upgrades you want to pour into them is you want to put attack first, and then generally speaking you want to put a couple of charge bonus on there, and then you can upgrade their clan attack skill, the clan melee attack, and that's usually the best way to go, so that they get high attack, high charge. That's generally the best use for Katana Samurai. So you can see how many kills my Katana Samurai obtained there. They were indeed the killing force of my army, followed up closely by my bows, so my army plan worked exactly the way I had intended. So what should my opponent have done better there? In my opinion, he shouldn't have brought the Great Guard. He should have brought a better skirmishing force. At that point, he could have whittled my skirmishing force down more, if not one, and then he could have used his extra infantry in an outflanking maneuver on my guys, and my cavalry wouldn't have been able to do too much about that again because there was no maneuver room. So my opponent really would have been better to spend less money on his cavalry on that particular map. Now, had we been on rice fields, my opponent would have had a much greater advantage in the cavalry department just because his Great Guard would have been much more viable. Hopefully this makes sense. For those of you who are newer to the game, I just wanted you to understand this. My opponent was curious about it, of course, and so, you know, he was a good sport about it all. I enjoyed the game, and I didn't show this because I thought it was some type of spectacular victory for me. I thought it was just more of an opportunity to teach a principle of how to choose your army right for the map that you're playing on. So always consider the map that you're playing on. Oh, whoops. I accidentally picked the wrong battle to show you again, so I'll go pick the right one and be back in a second. Alright, this is the replay I meant to bring you, and indeed, folks, this is Patchy Defies Modernization. A lot of you have been clamoring for this. You seem to enjoy it, and to be honest, I kind of enjoy playing these battles. I've gotten, the next time I get my butt kicked by a Fall of the Samurai army, I'll try and show it to you just to show you what I did wrong. That way you get a little bit of tips from both sides of the ball. You can kind of see what I've done wrong. And you'll also be able to see in these battles what I try to do right. Now, how will this particular battle turn out? Well, I probably just gave it away by accident. But it's not as barbarically simple as some of the ones that I've shown in the past. This is definitely an interesting one. So let's start off. I'm going to, again, throw it into slow motion so I can introduce you to the armies. I've got two Kisho Ninja. One of them is Shame for Display, and the other one is Devil Matt's Tribute. And Devil Matt is the one who makes my intro screens and background on the channel. I've got my Apaches of the Caribbean. That's my Waco Raiders. And then the main infantry force I have is 4 Naginata attendants, backed up by 2 Katana Samurai. Both of these are good veterans. And then I've got 1 sword attendant. So you can see the attack on my Katana Samurai is pretty substantial. One's 18, the other is 20. I've got 4 cavalry units, including my general. So I've got 2 Yari Cav and 1 Katana Cav. This is Pony Princess Barbie. And the reason I named them that, of course, is so that you can feel ashamed whenever you get absolutely destroyed by a unit named Pony Princess Barbie. And of course, here's old Patchy over here, the traditional version, of course, not the modernized version. And he is ready to slice off the heads of some modernized pigs. So there he is. Here's my opponent. He was in the 7th Sam clan. I've never seen him on before, but I think his name was Bill Berrien. So anyway, he's got, I want to say overall, 3 Yari Ki and 1 Carbine Cav. He's got all 3 of his Yari Ki here, and then his Carbine Cav right now is up on the hill. I believe he brought this unit of Shogutai that has some pretty big attack. And I was concerned, of course, for my opponent to bring Shogutai, which is why I brought some powerful sword units and a Katana Cav. Because Shogutai are a great counter for traditional armies if you use them correct, because there's 150 of them, they have high attack and solid morale. My opponent is also using some White Tiger Force. These guys are no doubt some type of meat shield. So he's got 2 White Tiger Force. To be honest, I think they were a waste of money. That's 1,000 koku he could have spent on something that would have actually been useful. These White Tiger Force, if they shoot anything, they won't hit it. They can't do anything in a melee, and they can only absorb arrows for a few seconds before they rout because they've only got 4 morale. So, to be honest, I think they're a waste, but my opponent's chosen them. He's brought these Red Bears, which a lot of people think Red Bears are substantially better in melee. They really aren't. The only thing that they have that's better, I think, is maybe a smidge more defense, and then a higher charge. So really, Red Bears aren't a whole lot better. He's got some sharpshooters, 1 unit right there. And that's obviously his range component to try and shoot down some of my range. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all he's got. So he's got the sharpshooters, 2 Red Bear, 2 White Tiger Force, Shogutai, Spear Levy, his general, and then he spent a lot of money on his cavalry over here as well. So that's pretty much his army. So let's put it into play, and I'll show you what's going on. So there was an initial standoff between my cavalry and his. My opponent did not want to charge, nor did I, because his infantry would have been in supporting range. My hidden units were discovered by his passing unit of Yari Cav, so my opponent now knows that I'm using Kisho Ninja, which is bad. That takes away a severe element of surprise, and some of you may be wondering why I did not deploy the Kisho Ninja right in his face, as I have typically done. There's a couple of reasons for that. 1, I've done it before, and so showing you that again would have been pretty lame. And 2, I did not use the Shinobi Informer, so I did not know where my opponent was deploying, and that is a massive risk to do such a thing when you do not know where they're deploying. My opponent sent 1 Yari Ki back here, obviously with the intention of capping this archery dojo, which would have given a massively improved reload. However, this was a foolish move by my opponent because now this Yariki is completely cut off from support. So I've got my 2 Yari Cav chasing it down. Here's the stats on my Yari Cav. I think it's 12-13, melee defense of 1. If you look at a Yariki, it's 8-12-4 on this particular one. He's increased their charge bonus, but you can see the charge bonus on my Yariki, or Yari Cav, is much higher. So a Yariki has a higher attack, lower morale, and lower charge than a Yari Cav. That is the difference. However, a Yariki is cheaper, so you're able to put some upgrades on them. Right here, he's dismounted them. This is sometimes like a smart move, but I mean, this is just utterly foolish in this case because I'm going to see them dismounted. I'm simply going to call off the charge and now focus my attack while these guys are going to have to waste time getting remounted. So here comes the charge. You can see his cav quickly lose the charge and go down 20 men. I'm not sure how many I went down. I'm down a lot too. So that was a pretty even exchange on the charge, but again, his morale is going to be poor. He took this carbine cav around the flank, and he's obviously brought them with the intent to support, but you can see that his other Yari cav is still remounting, and now that his carbine cav has gotten their shots off, they're dead, because they cannot outrun my Yari cav. So this was kind of also foolish to get his carbine cav separated from more infantry support, because here my Yari cav is going to have its way with them, basically. And Yari cav will absolutely slaughter carbine cav. Here I'm going to turn, I think at the last second, try and turn and meet his charge, because he's got that Yariki coming from behind, which is going to damage me. But here comes my reinforcing cav, so his carbine cav is going to get met by Patchy, and my katana cav is going to swing around to finish off his Yari cav, which is already in the process of routing. His troops have poorer morale, and my general is in the vicinity, so my troops are going to stand their ground, and his troops are going to rout. So you can see that Patchy's already racked up 22 kills, 23 make it, and my Yari cav got some pretty fair kills too. One of them got more than the other. My katana cav's also racked up 19 kills. So all my cav is already basically on a killing spree. My opponent has one more Yari cav unit. He's using it probably to do some scouting right here. He may want to know where my hidden units are at. I've already moved them to the far right flank where my opponent has no cav to run them down. So now I'm going to keep these guys far flung, because my opponent is going to have to focus his attention on my troops in the center, and by so doing, he's going to weaken his flanks. Right here, my Pirates of the Caribbean get spotted, basically, which ticks me off, so I end up just having to run my troops back to safety. Having spotted those hidden units, my opponent obviously gets a little bit spooked and stops his troops so that he can get ready to fire. And I start running my hidden troops back towards my main infantry body. This is a ruse. I do not intend to keep these troops in the center, but this is just a show. So my opponent can see me running these back, but I'm not going to keep him there. Now you would think that he would get wise though and go to protect that flank, but again, this is all a matter of deception and strategy in an attempt to catch my opponent off guard. So I run these guys back towards my infantry, making it seem as if I'm too scared to move them to the flank now. So that's pretty much the idea there. I've got some Yari cav over here on this hill, no intention to strike. This is just a matter of trying to draw his troops out of position. You can see that my opponent is having to position his troops rear-facing, and he's only got his White Tiger force facing forward, which is going to get very few kills. Again, this is 1,000 koku between the two units that definitely could have been spent elsewhere. These sharpshooters, also very expensive for not so great stats, should have been spent elsewhere. If I had bow units, they would have eaten those guys alive at a lot lesser cost. So whenever you're going to play against a traditional army, my opponent's army had the capability to win. It's just that whenever he threw away his cav like that early, he's now pretty much lost the capability to win unless I make some kind of massive mistake. Now what he's trying to do to rectify that is he's captured this melee, or the sword dojo, and he's captured this, he's capturing this morale shrine. So that will boost the morale of his men. And it will also give him increased melee attack, which theoretically could help turn the balance back into his favor. So that's what my opponent's looking to do at this point. When it comes to Yari cav, we're even in numbers, although I think qualitatively speaking, my Yari cav is superior to his Yari ki, just because mine will win the charge, which will then decimate his men, who have a lower morale. So even if my opponent captures that morale shrine, his men will have markedly lower morale than my own, just because they are follow the samurai units, and they tend to have lower morale, which kind of makes sense. A samurai soldier would have higher morale, higher training, you know, whereas an imperial type army,
the men would have been more so, you know, I don't know if they were, what do you call it, drafted, or if they joined, but they would have been a lower morale, lower trained, because it's obviously easier to train someone how to use a rifle than it is to use a bow or a sword. So it's just obvious reasons there that the morale difference. So whenever you're playing a Follow the Samurai army with your traditional army, keep in mind that morale usually favors your men. But also keep in mind that absolute killing power is going to be in the hands of the Follow the Samurai army. So when it comes to ranged killing power, I should say, and even melee killing power if your opponent chooses a whole bunch of these shogutai, so you got to be very careful. The cavalry is probably about evenly balanced between the two time periods as well as far as usefulness. It really just depends on how the player uses it. So I've used my Yari Cav to chase his guys off the morale shrine, and I'm going to start trying to take it away from him. My opponent does not feel that he can lose that morale shrine and still win the battle, so this is going to cause a peel off of some of his red bear infantry here. This is what I want. The more units that he has to peel off, run elsewhere, leave to defend, this just allows my melee troops to get in position and take fewer losses. So all of these type of things are going to play into my hand. Now I'm not in my wildest dreams going to stick around and fight his Yariki while his red bears can support, because my guys will die instantly and it'll all be for naught. But I'm not going to run these Yariki completely out of here either. I'm going to keep my opponent's attention focused here. So whenever you're doing these type of strategies, you have to... The best way to kill the Follow Samurai army is to pick them apart, single them out, do not allow them to face forward and focus their killing power straight at you. You've got to spread them out, confuse them, and keep them pointing in every direction. That's going to minimize their firepower in any one given direction and allow you to pick out weaknesses. So right now my opponent has low firepower through the front because of his white tiger force and sharpshooters, and he's also got low firepower from the rear because he's only got 2 units of red bears. The firepower from his sides is absolutely 0, and that's exactly where my Kisho Ninja are going to be coming from. So you can see there that that's the reasoning behind this type of army. You'll notice that I've also left my general and my Katana Cav ready to strike this open flank. I've got my Wako Raiders also ready to hit this flank, and now I'm keeping my Naginata attendants in the center so that my opponent cannot ignore the center, but I'm moving my more powerful units to the flank. So this is going to cause my opponent to not be able to cover any one approach with very much power. So you can see he's using his Shogutai. He's trying to recap this melee building, and I'm going to try and take the melee building away from him as well. You can see he's in the process of capturing it, and I'm just going to move my Nagi attendants forward here in a moment and just take it back from him. All the while my Yariki are just making harassing movements in the back. But you'll see that I'm not going to get them too close to these units of Kisho Ninja because I don't want my opponent to know those Kisho Ninja are coming. So my Yariki are going to stay conveniently further over here. My opponent should be very suspicious of a Kisho Ninja attack from the side, and he's definitely underestimating Kisho Ninja by not having been scouting around more with his Yari Cav. These Kisho Ninja are absolutely deadly. This one has 30 attack. This one has 27 attack. They have high morale, high charge. They will absolutely wreck you when they get into a melee, and they will not stop wrecking you. And whenever I put the stealth run ability on these guys, their attack and charge is going to go even higher. So these guys are extraordinarily dangerous. They're very tricky to use, of course, because if they get charged by an enemy cav unit, you know, they can be ruined. They are cheap, though. In the traditional armies, they're not cheap in the Follow the Samurai armies. So in any case, these are cheap, effective units only if you can get them into combat the appropriate way. So again, my Yari Cav over here going to keep his cavalry away from my Kisho Ninjas. My opponent starts to make some moves in the center, and his guys start to get more spread out. And I decide that this is the decisive point. My opponent is mostly split up, he's moving his troops, and he's not going to be reacting in a timely manner to any of my attacks. So I start to take the morale shrine away from him. I'm taking away the sword dojo. My opponent's attention is focused over here with his Cav. And at this point, I put the stealth run on, and my Kisho Ninjas come forward. You can see that they're now going to come attack his men. His general made these guys over here visible, but they only took 10 or 12 losses. And even with those 10 or 12 losses, just watch the numbers in that red bear unit dropping. They're already down 30 men. And his white bears and his general are coming over to try and stop my Kisho Ninja. His general is going to get absolutely throttled by my ninjas. there is no chance that his general can fight, or his Yariki, sorry. His general and his Yariki is in here. Now up the center, because my opponent's attention was elsewhere, I fixed him into combat with my Naginata attendants, and my Yariki hit his red bears from behind and absolutely destroyed them. So now that they're destroyed, I can hit his white tiger force from behind as well. And then I've also got my Katana Cav coming in, and these guys, or my Katana Samurai, are headed right here into his Shogutai. So now his Shogutai don't get the charge bonus, and they're going to start to get hacked to bits. And here comes Patchy's Pony Princess Cavalry. And like I said, these guys are no joke. Once they get into combat, they're going to start laying waste to anything they touch. Patchy just pulled off a hammer and anvil charge, decimating this spear levy. And I'm going to pull Patchy out and run another hammer and anvil charge against the back of these Shogutai and completely break their morale. So you can see that how quickly if all the samurai army can get wrecked whenever they get their flank turned. So, and you can see that both my ninja units are still alive. Neither one of them died. And here's my his Yarikis routing. My ninja units didn't die. My Waka Raiders didn't die. I'll end the battle so that I can show you these statistics. So whenever you're doing this fighting the modern armies, the key is to their killing power is from a frontal assault. So if you assault them in a frontal deal, expecting to beat them straight down the center, you're gonna die. The best way to beat them is you gotta get them turning, you've gotta get them moving, and that's what's gonna give your traditional army the advantage. You attack whenever they're unprepared. So right there when my opponent started to make moves, that's when I attacked him. I hit him in the rear quick with my Yari Cav. My ninjas hit him from the flank. While that flank was turned, my Wako Raiders hit him from behind. And then my Naginata attendants, which were the most worthless units I had, is where he focused a lot of his frontal melee attention. So he ended up getting hit in the flank by my Katana Samurai and also getting hit by my Katana Cav. And it may not have looked like my Katana Cav did much, but wait till you see the kills on those guys. Like I said, they got the most kills in the battle by one. And then my Yari Cav, this one got the next one. This is the one that hit those red bears from behind as well. And then you can see how quickly this Shame for Display unit racked up 133 kills. Now keep in mind, this is 45 men that racked up 133 kills. So that was like a 3-to-1 kill ratio, basically. Patchy's Avatar only lost one man, racked up 83 kills. So like I said, when you get these guys in the right spot, you will absolutely throttle a Fall of the Samurai army. You can see his best unit was his Shogutai, and they were indeed killing my Nagi attendants pretty quickly. But you can obviously see that my Katana Samurai turned that around quickly whenever I got them into place. Good game to my opponent. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope it gives you some strategy ideas. Like I said, the next time I play Apache Defies Modernization battle and I lose or something, I'll show that to you just so you can maybe see some things that I did wrong. Because I don't want to give you the idea that these things work every time. They most definitely don't. Heir of Carthage signing off for now. Hope you all enjoyed these battles, and stay tuned for some campaign action in a day or two as well.